Good morning and welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by our friends at Get-Go Cafe and Market, where the special currently is 2 breakfast sandwiches for $5, Grubba.
Yes, always a good deal. Also, their regular breakfast combo still there, $3.99, sandwich, hash browns, and coffee.
That's all right, huh?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about something that's right around the corner from the Get-Go on the south side,
Yes.
and that is Pitt holding Media Day at the Rooney Complex, and the emphasis was on defensive depth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, that's what, certainly the big takeaway I wrote about. Pat Narduzzi spoke for about a half hour. He hit every topic, but, it was great sitting down with Randy Bates, the new defensive coordinator. He's always got, some great things to share. Started out telling a story about he has an autographed Roberto Clemente photo, so I don't know what that had to do with much, but it was a great story. But he talked about the Pitt defense at this point being like a tree with him being a new coordinator. And right now they're just working on growing those roots in deep with the fundamentals and tweaking things. But the thing I thought was interesting, Pat Narduzzi made the comment, that with the new DC in there, they are tweaking some things and making some changes. And he even threw in that these are some changes that maybe should have been made 3 years ago.
Oh.
And I thought that was
what that sounds like.
Well, that was a very interesting comment to make. But right now, he and Coach Bates seem to be really on the same page and really high on their defensive players.
When you talk about defensive depth, and he talked a lot about using a lot of oars on the depth chart, what I hear is that I don't have 11 starters.
Well, see, that's... A lot of them are starters from a year ago, though. They're 9 starters from last year.
So which was not a great defense.
But that might mean those oars, either some of those players are improving or some of the young guys pushing from behind are maybe showing that they're the ones jumping into the starting lineup. Maybe they're pushing to replace some of the existing starters.
I reserve the right to remain skeptical. So when I say skeptical, and when you talk about potential changes in the secondary, we're all talking about the same thing here, and that's the bizarre Narduzzi scheme that every corner, every secondary guy had to be on an island so that he could do everything in his power to stop the run. And it's the way he was whenever he was at Michigan State as the defensive coordinator. He brought that to Pitt. No matter what kind of personnel he had, he was going to go with that system.
Yes, and
it didn't work.
And I think that
it hasn't worked.
I think that there are... they're not going to abandon that altogether. That's just Narduzzi's style. That's who he is.
But
I think the changes that are coming are twofold. One, they think with an improved defensive line that they're not going to leave those guys on an island for as long as guys like Maddox last year were left.
That's what every football coach says when they're trying to justify single coverage is, well, we just need to rush the passer better.
Well, the second part is improving the talent back there. And the guy everyone's talking about is Paris Ford, who was, highly recruited coming out. Right now, though...
who else was highly recruited coming out and was in the secondary? Jordan Whitehead. And it didn't matter because he didn't have the corners to do the coverage. That's the part that I keep coming back to. Are these guys that they currently have... Look, Avonte Maddox had his rough stretches, but by the time he left Pitt, he was... a pretty good college corner, especially
and that's why he's in Eagles camp right now.
How he'd been exposed. So, is this really going to be a better group than what you had with Whitehead and Maddox?
I think athleticism, for one, is something they addressed and are trying to address with Ford moving from safety to corner.
Okay.
They're trying to put a guy out there who's capable of doing that. Ford's sort of a wild card because right now he's not even number 1 on the depth chart.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
You have Jason Pinnock on one side who...
doesn't mean anything.
But I got a chance to talk with him, and I thought he had a great comment about when he was recruited, because he's only a true sophomore, Pitt was near the bottom of the country in pass defense. And that's why he wanted to come here.
Oh, he saw opportunity.
Because he saw, I can make a difference here. And I thought, that's the sort of thing you want to hear from a guy who started getting into the rotation at corner toward the end of last year, stepped in when Maddox went down for a couple of games. So maybe with opportunity, guys like him, guys like Paris Ford, who's a wild card. He can play like a safety. He can play on the slot.
They can't mess around with him. He needs to play.
Yep. Well, he's a guy that they want to get on the field. They're just trying to find out how to keep doing that in as many ways as possible to allow him to make big plays.
I'm not sure if Kenny Pickett went completely Joe Namath on the process in predicting that Pitt's going to have a winning season. But it's kind of indicative of who he is, isn't it?
Yeah, and like you said, it's not Joe Namath. He's not predicting, a Super Bowl or even, New Year's Day bowl game. He said they're not going to go 5-7.
So, yeah, I mean, that's something you don't fly on a flag.
But I don't think you want a guy on your team starting, especially not at quarterback, who doesn't think they're going to at least have a bowl season. And so, I mean, from that part, I think that was really a safe thing to say while still projecting confidence. And that's really what it's been about with him this whole camp is he looks the part of the starter. When they're going through passing drills, there's just a noticeable drop-off from when he's the one throwing the passes, running the offense, just even in pass skeleton drills from, Ricky Town, the transfer that came in, the backup, Nick Patty's the true freshman coming in that they're really high on the way he throws the ball, but he's a true freshman. But there's just such a drop-off from Pickett to those guys. You can see that he's the guy that, is ready to be a number one in a major conference.
He seems comfortable with it too, Matt. That's the thing that stood out about him, even going back to, and I understand it's only, a couple of games that he's gotten under his belt, but one of them was enormous, and he rose to that occasion within reason.
Yeah.
And he's got that sense about him. The one thing we've been saying about Pitt and the football program forever and ever has been, well, you need to get that quarterback. Until they get that quarterback, and I'm not saying that he's going to be the best they've had since Tyler Palko, but he might be.
Yeah, and it's funny.
He might be.
It's funny you make that Palko comparison because there's just little things about the way he plays that sort of invite that comparison too. He's not hesitant to tuck the ball down and run it when necessary and stick his head in there too. He's not, a jog out of bounds quarterback.
Right.
He fights for yardage. He's the kind of guy that the guys on the offensive line certainly like, blocking for him and see that, we have a guy this year, unlike last year, which was a revolving door, and that just ruined timing pretty much for everyone else on the offense.
Yeah, big mess actually. It's really good to see the Pitt program have at least the potential to have that position shored up. So what's realistic? What's fair? I know those are actually probably two different questions, but
no, I think they're very much tied in. I think realistic. I think the minimum bar should be a bowl game. Now, granted, their schedule works against them, and very much in that sense. 3 top 25 teams, Penn State, UCF, and Notre Dame on the schedule out of conference. So the biggest thing I want to see is them actually do some work in the ACC and put away these teams that have been thorns in their side, like a North Carolina that they really shouldn't have been losing to in years past. And I think that is where I really want to see the improvement. Sure, if they knock off a Notre Dame or a Penn State, that's going to be great for recruiting, wave the flag, but in this day and age, the way the bowl selection process works, just handle business in your conference. Go 6-2, 7-1 there. They could only win the Albany game out of conference and go to a pretty good bowl game.
I think that looking at overall record for this team is going to be a little bit misguided. And I'll say the same thing if they beat those teams. Look, it's great, like you said, from a prestige standpoint, from a building standpoint. And we saw that to an extent when they did beat Penn State at Heinz Field a couple of years ago. And Pitt fans actually did, which I didn't think they would, command the venue.
Yeah.
Which kind of surprised me. I don't know if that'll happen this time around. Some things have changed for both programs. But overall, though, man, just focus on the conference. They haven't done anything meaningful inside the conference, even though they have not been in the more challenging of the two divisions in the conference.
Right, and we talked in the past about this is a pretty wide open year in the Coastal Division.
Yeah, who's your favorite?
Miami's the favorite, just based on what they were able to do last year, but then again, they fell apart toward the end. Pitt knocked them off here. They got
I remember the chains and all that stuff.
And then they got romped in the championship game by Clemson. I think that was like 38-0 . So some ridiculous.
More chains were flashing on the other side. I remember that too.
So it's a wide open group. When I went down to ACC kickoff, there were probably 5 different schools. I'd say the only ones that maybe weren't thinking have a shot to win the division title might be Carolina and Virginia. But you had media members cover Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, even Duke. People thinking, hey, this is open enough where we can win it. So why not Pitt? I think that's what they're thinking. If the defense can shore up, and the run defense was pretty solid last year, it's just getting the whole package together.
Well, I think the pieces are there. Don't you keep bringing that up? The run defense was solid because they put everybody on the line and told their secondary to just fend for themselves.
Hey, that's
I'm sorry. Until they get that cleared up, Grubba, I get that,
but I think the scheme is maybe not as big of a problem as the personnel when it comes to that. That's kind of how I feel,
thought
and
they had personnel,
I'd like to see how it goes this year. And that's not to knock Maddox last year. I mean, like you said, he turned into a pretty solid, but he took his lumps.
He did for a long time.
Mm-hmm.